I'd like to start by saying what an honor and a pleasure it is to be hosting White Shirt here again back at Local 651. The last time we were able to host White Shirt Day here was back in 2020 on February 11th. If some of you remember, we had a significant snowstorm that day where we accumulated around 11 inches of snow, so it caused a few people to miss, but we still were able to manage to have a packed house, which is good. Fast forward to today, if you look outside, we have clear skies and sunshine, so we all should be grateful for that. With that, my name is Eric Price, president here at Local 651, and I bring greetings on behalf of my executive board and myself, my vice president, Charlize Orr, my recording secretary, Amber Bogan, my financial secretary, Amy Craker, my trustees, Cassandra Moore Jackson, Carlos Avila, and Cassandra Gaylor. My sergeant at arms, Fred Frisch, and my guide, Karen Price. Also, my chairman, Rick Heller. I'd like to thank our very own LaRonda Shackelford, who's absent today, for the decorations that you all see out on the tables. She did a great job. I'd also like to thank our Local 651 Women's Committee and our Region 1D Women's Council for serving and volunteering their time today. Also, I'd like to thank our local retiree chapter for providing the bean soup and the apples that we'll all be partaking in today. With that, I'd like to bring in our Region 1D color guards, our Region 1D veterans for the presentation of colors.
Color guard, up, kids. Left, right, left. Color guard, halt. Right, hey. Post. Colors. Present. On.
I would all ask that everybody joins for the singing of the Pledge of Allegiance. And I did say sing, because in this region we do sing.
What so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Can everybody give our color guards a round of applause? You all may be seated. So now I'd like to bring up our Assistant Director, Scott Zuxworth.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 87th year of the White Shirt Day celebration. I'd like to first off thank Eric Price, your entire local union executive board. I'd like to thank Rick Heller and the shop committee for hosting this today, but I most want to thank the local 651 membership for holding this event today. And I'd also like to, if I could have a special point of privilege, to really thank Local 651 and their brothers and sisters at 659, 602, 1753, 2256, and 2145, as these were local unions within our region that were asked to stand up this fall in order to recognize and honor our sit-down strikers, to continue and carry that legacy. If I could also personally extend that gratitude to all the local unions throughout this great union in this great country that also stood up to honor the legacy of our great sit-downers. So now I would like to do a moment of silence to recognize our deceased sit-downers, their family members, and also any of our members that have deceased or fallen ill in the past year. So please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, now I would like to call up Sister Sharon Burnett from Local 651 to go ahead and give us an invocation.
Thank you. God bless each and every one of you. Everybody looks so beautiful, and what a wonderful cause that we're here today. Let us pray. We thank you, dear Heavenly Father, Lord God, for this wonderful day. We thank you for each and every one that's here, every official, everyone that took part in serving. We just thank you, and we praise you and we worship you, dear Lord God. And Lord God, as we continue to march on and do the things that has to be done in our locals and our unions everywhere, Lord God, that you will give us the strength, give us the wisdom to continue to march and to go on. And dear Lord God, we thank you, Lord God, for the people that prepared this food for us today, dear Lord God, and may we get nourishment to our bodies. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray, and everyone said, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Sharon. That was a beautiful prayer. So now I have the distinct honor and privilege to go ahead and introduce a gentleman that absolutely is not a stranger to anybody in this room. But if I could just make a few brief remarks about the person I'm about to introduce, as he's not one to want to have his bio or his accomplishments done throughout his career. But today is 4 days shy of 4 years when this gentleman first became the regional director of Region 1D in a special convention that was held February 13th, 2020 at Local 659. Subsequently, this gentleman was elected in the fall of 2022 in the first ever direct election. So this man that I'm going to introduce to you is an absolute history buff with regards to the sit-down strike and the history, and I'm sure he will continue to join us as long as he walks this green earth. So just a little bit more about Director Dawes. In case you didn't know, that's our director, is that the park that is over at our headquarters in Flint at 1940 West Atherton Road, if any of you folks have never had the opportunity to visit that park, please do so. Please take your time. Please walk through, drop in, look for me, look for Steve or any of the staff, and they can explain some of the history, is that park was built with staff and this guy right here, Director Steve Dawson. I will tell you today, is he continues to do maintenance on that park. It's not unusual to drive by in the spring or the fall or in the summer to see him out there weed whacking where I had missed some weeds or trimming some branches that he thought should have come down. So if you would please all give a warm welcome to your regional director, my regional director, Stephen Dawes.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you, Scott and Eric. A sincere thank you to you and your executive board for the opportunity to come here. You know, I was very fortunate for about a 5-year time frame being the president of this local union, so I feel kind of comfortable being up on this stage again, you know. So how about our Region 1D Color Guard? I will tell you we got some exciting things coming with that group, and I'm going to leave you in suspense till you see that. Before I get into introductions, acknowledgments, I really want to take a minute to bring greetings from President Son Fain. He was not able to be here today. He was, I believe, in Washington, taking care of some much-needed politic intervention that we absolutely need across this country. But I will publicly thank him for allowing me to tap into the resources of the International Union in our PR department. We have with us today Denny and Denver and Paul in the back, and I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. So I want to thank them for taking the time out of their busy schedules to come here and enjoy this day with us. So I will tell you something. I've been doing this for a long time, but today I'm stoked. I am absolutely excited. What do we got in here? 300 people or more? Y'all came here to celebrate us. Look around. Not only are we packed in here, but we are, because of Sean and allowing me to have these guys here, we are not just here sharing what we normally would do. We are live streaming on our Facebook page, in the international Facebook page, on Twitter, and on YouTube. Now that's exciting. Today we are taking our history, Flint, Michigan's White Shirt Day celebration, and share it with the world, not just Flint, Michigan. We're already getting pictures around the region and pictures around the country from other work sites wanting to be part of this event and get on our websites. So I ask you, are you ready to share our story? You ready to celebrate our heritage? And you ready to show the world that we are the Union? Come on, give it up. So I want to start the program today with kind of set the stage a little bit, because this is about honoring our great men and women that took on the largest corporation in the world at the time. And I want to show this video, and it's a video of live coverage of the sit-down strike. I want people to see the honorable work, see the bravery of these men and women that took on the largest corporation and the most powerful corporation in the world. I want them to see the solidarity of all that came to support working men and women. And I want them to see, although we all may look the same, we don't look the same, we don't talk the same, and we come from different places. But when it comes to standing up for fairness, safety, basic human rights, we are solidarity, and we are the Union. So if you'd please play the video, and if somebody could dim the lights.
I packed my last guitar away and started driving home. My head is full of songs and smoking while I drove along. What made me go down Chevrolet, I guess I'll never know. At 1 a.m. the place was lit with amber street light glow. Is this the place where brave men stood to corporation power and yelled to the winds, to hell with you, this is the workers' hour? Simple men with work-worn hands and lives not worth a damn formed a line to live or die once the fight began. Is there a truer heart today than those who took a stand? In 1937 cold, the sit-down strike would end. They left their wives and babies alone to face uncertainty, and what they earned when spirits burned was passed today to me. Damn the pinks and all the fakes who tried to make us go. We stand for right and we'll win this fight and match 'em toe to toe. So bring 'em on, we're waiting here to fight or talk, you choose. And while we hold our brother's hand, the worker will never lose. Is there a truer heart today than those who took a stand? In 1937 cold, the sit-down strike would end. They left their wives and babies alone to face uncertainty, and what they earned when spirits burned was passed today to me. My eyes swept o'er this desolate sight of democratic rights, and I recalled the stories told of all those desperate nights. I wish I could have stood with them to see their wives come down, to stand in line between their men upon this battleground. Spirits live within this place, I see them even now. Luther's voice still echoes here to rally up the crowd. And as long as we still hear the voice of 37 strong, they'll live within and guide our path that leads us ever on. Is there a truer heart today than those who took a stand? In 1937 cold, the sit-down strike would end. They left their wives and babies alone to face uncertainty, and what they earned when spirit
the Union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, brothers and sisters. Solidarity forever.
You know, I was very fortunate to be part of making that video here at this local union, and I think it was back in the 90s, and I tell you what, I've probably seen it 500 times, and it still takes me a minute to gather my thoughts after that, because of that and them, we're here today having what we have today, and we owe them everything. So at this time, if I could, do we have any of the families of the sit-downers or Women's Emergency Brigade here today? If they would please stand. Thank you. Is there any family of the Burt Christensen family here today? You're up again, all right. You know, what's cool about with Burt was that he recognized back in 1948, he was a member of Local 598, that we just could not forget our heritage and forget about these great sit-down strikers and the Women's Emergency Brigade. And he come up with the idea that we would wear white shirts, because back in the day, foremen always wore white shirt and tie, that we would on that day wear white shirt and ties, or white shirts, so that we'd show them that we were equal and they couldn't run without us. And the rules were to get your shirt as dirty as the boss did, which was nothing, right? And to only work with the rules. So thank you for that. It's historical, and as Scott said, as long as I'm around, we're going to continue to do this because it's that important. So at this time, I'd like to acknowledge all of our civic leaders. And I will tell you, that I learned the hard way, I'm just going to go around the room, and you can raise your hand and shout out your name, because if I miss one of you, then I'm off the Christmas list. So with that, I'm going to start over here. Mayor Neely.
Mayor Sheldon Neely, City of Flint.
Thank you, Mayor. All the way in the back. The Judge. Right, straight back. All right. Let Gary know when he gets on that motorcycle tour again this summer, he's welcome to stop by our local unions. Dan?
Dan Moynihan, Genesee Conservation District, and candidate for U.S. House of Representatives here in the 8th District.
Okay.
Nick Bennett with Congressman Dan Kilby's office.
Actually, Dan sent us a video, so we're gonna be hearing from our great congressman here shortly.
Jasper Martin, State Representative for the 69th District and great-grandson of Sit Down.
I don't need to get there. Jeff?
Jeff Rice, Drain Commissioner, grandmother of Red Parade.
And knows everything about water. He knows more about water than water knows about itself. Right here? Ryan?
Brian Patel, Genesee County Circuit Court.
Oh,
Dominic Clemens, Genesee County Clerk and Registrar of Deeds.
our great county clerk. Barb Byron.
Barb Byron, Cleveland County Clerk.
got a lot of work ahead of you guys.
Good morning, everyone. Don Brignon, Regional Manager for Senator Stafford.
All right, Debbie Stabenow.
Sharon Reeves, Legislative Director for Representative Cynthia Neal.
That's simple. I seen Sam. And Dan, I know you're not a civic leader, but I want you to introduce yourself, Dan. Big Dan.
Dan Gaudette, Business Manager with Plumbers and Pipe Fitters.
And I'll tell you the reason I want to do that is because with the help of the sheriff and Prosecutor David Layton and a whole bunch more of our local union leadership and with the building trades and all of the other unions around the Genesee County area, we've started a labor coalition. And we're really, when we meet, we talk about things that affects everybody, just not one group, because things that affects other groups don't necessarily affect the UAW and vice versa. So I'm proud of that group, and them two guys are a big part of that. So I want to thank them guys for coming today. And I seen Mary Hood.
Mary Hood, I am a family division referee for Genesee County Circuit Court and candidate for Circuit Judge.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Crew. I'm the Genesee County Democratic Party Chair.
Yay, Ashley. Christine, right? Yep, go ahead.
Hi everyone, Kristen McDonald-Rivet, State Senator and candidate for the 8th Congressional.
And actually, you're going to hear from her and Jasper here in a little bit, along with Senator John Cherry. Did I miss anybody? We're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from him, so. Plus, he don't need no introduction. Not everybody knows prosecutor. And Senator John Cherry's here, so I think that's everybody. So with that, I'd like to take a brief minute to introduce my staff that is here and my support staff. First of all, going around the room, Jason Van Boxler, servicing rep out of our Flint office. One of our past servicing reps is next to him, Chad Wurzel, now which is the president of Staff Council. A good friend of ours out of Health and Safety Detroit, Mr. Matt Upmore, does a great job for us. I'm glad he's here today. Out of the Lansing office, Ted Crum. Out of our Grand Rapids office, Dan Kashiba. Their secretary over on that side of the state, Sarah Price. Then we got Frank Hines out of Grand Rapids office. Jason Tuck out of the Flint office. Now Ryan Burkowski out of the Flint office, he's back there manning the lights. Jeff Brown, another lighting expert from the Flint office back there. And I thought I see Scott Henry here. Scott Henry back in the corner, Flint office. Tony Chandler, Lansing office. Scott Diedick, Lansing office. And I seen Steve Gruner, which is our education rep somewhere. And Tina Sarazin, which is our CAP rep. Did I miss anybody? Oh, Betsy Bennett, all the way from the UP. I think that's all the staff reps. And out of the Flint office, for our support staff, it's Morgan. Greg's over on the one end. And a special thank you to my secretary, Brittany Yambrick. She has to put up with me putting all this stuff together because I change the run of show, I change the videos, and usually before I give her something to change, she's already read my mind and already done it, and she's a great asset to us. So thank you, and I tell you, we just couldn't do that without that. So I want to take a little minute here to explain kind of what's going on up in front of us here. This table right here, we kind of copied, with the permission of the veterans, kind of copied the table that they have for their missing soldier and missing man, I should say. And so we kind of tried to mimic that with the Women's Emergency Brigade and the whole White Shirt Day theory, and try to set it up kind of how they would have had to live their time inside the factories when they were protecting their rights and standing up for what they believed in at the time. So I always like to, we kind of come up with that idea about 5 or 6 years ago. Luckily, we did it just before the last sit-downers and Women's Brigade passed away, so they were very appreciative of it and really appreciated it. And again, I like to just kind of let everybody know what the whole theory is about that thing. And at this time, I'd like to have the veterans explain the table, and I think we're going to have Tim come up and read. Oh, just throw it on the floor.
The table that stands before you is a place of honor. In setting this table, we acknowledge those missing from our celebration today, and we remember them. The table is small and set for one, symbolizing the vulnerability of a lone prisoner against his captors. We remember. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing purity of intention in responding to the nation's call to arms. We remember. The chair is empty, for they are not here. We remember. The wine glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us today. We remember. The slice of lemon reminding us of their bitter suffering. We remember. The grains of salt representing the countless tears of the families. We remember. The single red rose reminding us of loved ones who keep the faith, awaiting their return. We remember. The burning candle and the yellow ribbon, symbolizing everlasting hope of a reunion with the missing. We remember. Remember all those who have served alongside them. We who have donned the same proud uniform, being sworn to the same faith and allegiance. We will never forget their sacrifice. We remember. Remember the day until they return home or find eternal peace. We will remember. Thank you.
Can I have all of our veterans please stand up? Thank you. I will tell you, words cannot say thank you the way that we need to thank you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, I want to kind of get into a little more of some speakers here. I'm going to introduce, first we're going to play a little short video, and then our sheriff is going to come up and say a few words on behalf of our current sheriff. And I will tell you that, Bob, I want to personally thank you for all the years that you have taken care of us here in Genesee County, your leadership across the country, not just this state. And I was not real happy that you retired, but I understand it, that you needed to, you served this community great, and little did I know at the time what you were preparing us for. The young whippersnapper that took over for you, and I want to thank you for that. I used to call you the greatest sheriff of all the land, and now you are the greatest retired sheriff of all the land, because there is a new greatest sheriff of all the land. And with that, we got a little video here from Chris.
My brothers and sisters, Sheriff Swanson here. I wish I could be in person celebrating White Shirt Day with you, but as I cut this video, I'm in downtown Birmingham, Alabama, right here at the 16th Street Baptist Church, the capital of the Civil Rights Movement. In September of 1963, 4 little girls were murdered because of a bombing, and that set the tone throughout the nation that change must occur, that the civil rights of people has to be the #1 priority. They fought in 1960s for the same thing that the 36, 37 sit-downers fought for. Dignity, human rights, respect. I will tell you, as a sheriff, that's what we do. We take care of people. We fight for these rights. We protect, serve, and unify. And you have my word, I will never, ever quit. I will take care of people who don't look like me, live where I live, believe the way I believe, because that's what sheriffs do. I learned the value of loyalty, which is solidarity, from a gentleman that I worked under as a deputy, a sergeant, a lieutenant, a captain, an undersheriff, and then to succeed him as the sheriff. And he's with you right now. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce to you my sheriff, Sheriff Robert J. Pickel. Solidarity.
Good morning. It's certainly a pleasure to be here this morning to celebrate White Shirt Day. The last time I stood on this stage was in 2020, January of 2020, when I think the finest director in the whole land presented me with the Walter Reuther Award. And it's an award that I received along with Debbie yes, she's out there taking photos right now. And it's an award that I really cherish because of the man that Mr. Reuther was and what he did for people and took us all a step up as far as living conditions. I was reading that in 1935, a General Motors employee was making $900. The Department of Labor set the standard at $1,600 if you had 4 kids. So, and during that time in 1935, many of the laborers were being taken out of the plant because of health issues, respiratory problems. Many of them died in the hospitals. And it was because of that 3 welders staged a sit-in strike, and they were fired. And the following day, about 50 workers did a sit-in in support of the 3 strikers that were fired. That afternoon, those 3 fired welders were put back to work. And it was such an electric moment, that sit-in, that the membership of the UAW went from 100 to 1,500. That's how electrifying it was. And then on December 30th, we all know what happened with the sit-in. And I couldn't help but when I was watching that video, that the police were hitting the people with the batons. Now that police department is unionized and have representation. So it's because of you and your leaders and what happened in the past that brought that all about. But I was thinking, when Steve was talking about Chris Swanson, you know, I couldn't possibly imagine us having a better sheriff at a really very difficult time in our community. Today, he was asked to be down at the church, the 16th Street Baptist Church, where the 4 little girls were killed in a bombing. But one day, that's not the only thing that he does. You know, he talked about civil rights, but here's a guy that really doesn't get the credit for what he really does. Of course, he brings Jelly Roll into the jail. We all know that. And we all know that he put the best educational program into the jail for the inmates. They're graduating now. They've got jobs to go to. Those are all of the things that he's doing, you know, as part of his job. When I was sheriff, and he was my under-sheriff, it was about one night about 6 o'clock, I was going out to my car, and it was parked right next to his SUV. And he was loading sandwiches into the car. And I said, Chris, what are you doing? And he was a little embarrassed by it. And he said, Sheriff, he said, once a week, my wife and I go out and feed street people. That's what kind of a sheriff you have. You know, he's not all what you think, you know, when people say, well, you know, he does it for publicity, he does this. That's not who Chris Swanson is. I want to tell you one more story that, you know, he's one of you, he's one of us. He takes his vacation, he works hard as the this guy's a worker. I mean, he's not a politician that just shows up and heads for the golf course. He works. He took his vacation and he goes to Haiti to build churches and schools. Tell me another elected official that does that. I certainly didn't do it. I didn't play golf either, but I didn't do that. But that's the kind of a man he is, and I'm so happy to represent him today. I can't replace him, but I can stand in for him. I don't have the energy and the enthusiasm that he has. I think I had half of it at one time. But, you know, I also mentioned about the police hitting the sit-in, the brigade that was bringing food, and they're now unionized. But Sheriff Wolcott, Tom Wolcott was the sheriff back then. He's the only Republican sheriff that was ever elected in Genesee County. He happened to be the sheriff at the time, and there was a judge, the General Motors, when the workers were sitting in, General Motors, they were stymied by it. You know, they insulated themselves in the plant, the workers, so the Black Legion, the goons, couldn't get at them. I mean, it was a pretty clever thing that they did. So they go to the court and they get a court order to arrest the people, remove them and arrest them. And the order was to arrest them by February 5th. So Tom Wolcott, being the stooge that he was, and I don't talk lightly of the dead, I mean, this guy is a stooge. He calls up the governor, Governor Murphy, who's an Irish Democrat, and he said, you know, we need the National Guard to come in and arrest the people. We've got a strike going on, and, you know, it's turning violent. And the only ones that were violent were the police. And Murphy, who, you know, came up the hard way and a Democrat, he sent the National Guard in. But it was to protect the workers. And it was protect the workers from the police and all that was going on. And today, we have probably the strongest union, the UAW, in the country, because their strike in 1936-37 was significant. I remember when I was going to NYU in 1961, and I was taking an economics course, and we studied about the sit-down strike. And it was the most significant strike because what it did was it established the middle class. It brought about, it was a social revolution is what it was. And I know my time is running out, but I feel so compelled to tell you, as I started out with, when I got that Walter Reuther Award, I didn't take it lightly. And I thank the UAW for all that they've given me during my time as the sheriff. And I know Sheriff Swanson feels the same way. We couldn't ask for a better group to support and all of the loyalty that you've given us. And on behalf of Sheriff Swanson and myself, I say thank you.
And with that, it gives me great honor to bring up, I guess, the second half of the dynamic duel. Along with the sheriff of this great county is our county prosecutor, David Layton, that is the greatest prosecutor of all the land. So, David.
So, good morning. I think it's still morning. To continue along with the Sheriff Swanson theme, when the sheriff became the sheriff emeritus, there's a panel that votes to decide who the next sheriffs are going to be. So I guess I'm going to stand here and tell you today I'm taking credit because I voted for Sheriff Swanson to make him the sheriff. And I have not been disappointed. He has done a terrific job. He and I work hand in glove for justice and fairness in our community, and that's going to continue for 4 more years. It's a great honor to be here. I was privileged to speak at White Shirt Day last year, and I thank Director Dawes. Thank you so much for the privilege to address you again today. It's truly an honor. Now, I know some of you may think that I was actually at the original sit-down strike because of the gray hair going on, but I'm here to tell you that's not true. The gray hairs have been earned down at the courthouse, where we have a never-ending deluge of cases that just keep washing up on the shores like of the ocean. But while I wasn't actually there in 1936 and 1937, I have always been with those brave men and the supportive members of the Women's Auxiliary in both spirit and in principle. This is my 20th year commemorating White Shirt Day with you as prosecutor, and I continue to be moved and inspired. Today, just as I was the first time that I joined hands with you and we sang in solidarity. We ate some delicious bean soup and we renewed our faith in the work of the UAW and the promise for a better life for all of us. And there's no question now that 2023 was an historic year for the UAW under the leadership of President Shawn Fain and my dear friend, your great director, Steve Dawes, and all the men and women of the UAW. Record profits equals record contracts, and that's how it should be. It became more than a slogan. It became a battle cry for the movement that resulted in higher wages, better benefits, and a more just treatment of UAW workers at every level. From the very foundation of its beginning, the UAW has always been an agent for justice in the workplace. Justice. It's about making corporations do the right thing by the workers. It's about fair wages and fair benefits and safety in the workplace and fairness in the way people are treated. The UAW brings justice to the factory floor, justice to the dinner table, justice to families who want to live the American dream. So how has that impacted what I do? Well, I'm going to tell you. As the elected prosecutor for Genesee County, similar to your goals, similar to the goals of the UAW, I consider myself a minister of justice. I don't consider my success based on the number of warrants that we issue, or the number of convictions that we obtain, or how many people we send off to prison. Now, those numbers may reflect my work, but the truth is my job is to seek justice. Justice for the victims of crime, justice for the residents of our community who want safe streets, justice for the bad actors so that they should be held accountable. But at the same time, my job is to ensure rights, civil rights, and ensure that the rights of the accused are always protected. I remember that sometimes good people make bad decisions. Sometimes they're not criminals, they're just people who made mistakes. And justice always requires that I do my job with fairness, with compassion for people who may have had a tough row in life and may need a second chance rather than a swift kick. And so it's justice that works for me, and justice that has worked for all of us, thanks to the UAW and all of its members. And it's justice that brings us here today in solidarity with those brave men and women from 1936 and 1937 who stood up to the injustice of corporate greed. Those men and women who literally stood at the factory doors as the corporate mobs tried to break their spirit down and wrestle away the justice that they were seeking. So, my friends, today, as we stand together in solidarity, hand in hand, arm in arm, let us never forget your fight, our fight, is a good fight. Our fight is for justice. Solidarity forever. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Prosecutor. That's a pretty good lead into my next guest because, you know, when you talk about politics and the roles it plays in our lives, you don't have to go far back just to 1937 to realize if we would not have had the governor we had, that we might not be standing here today. And a lot of people thought that he brought in the guards to come in to evict the people out of the plant because they had eviction notice or get fined $15 million. But he brought them in really to keep peace, but I think it was to protect the police because we were taking a big stand. So the politics mean a lot about everything to us, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. But I do have the pleasure of bringing one of them politicians in today's world that we have in Lansing fighting for us is our great Senator John Cherry.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm glad to join you again today for another White Shirt Day celebration. This week in the legislature, we passed a resolution commemorating February 11th as White Shirt Day in the state of Michigan. And we had, with the support of Senator Rivett, Representative Martis, Representative Neely. You know, for me, it's critical that we celebrate and remember White Shirt Day and the personal and collective sacrifices of the sit-downers, the workers, and their families. They made their sacrifices to provide a brighter future for their family and for generations of their family. And they also set a spark that created a chain reaction of unionization throughout our nation, which means they created a brighter future for families across our country. Now, why do we care about unionization, and why do we need a union? A union is the extension of American values of democracy, freedom, and equality to the workplace. I'm going to say that again because it's important. A union is the extension of American values of democracy, freedom, and equality to the workplace. Without a union, a worker's conditions are dictated by the company. With a union, workers have the power to democratically elect the people who sit at the table to make those decisions. And something I learned early on while working is, if you're not at the table, where are you? You're on the menu. So, when workers are at the table, the result is worker freedom. And what is worker freedom? It's the freedom to earn a decent living. It's the freedom to care for your kids and care for your parents. It's the freedom to take a vacation every so often. It's the freedom to provide opportunity to your kids. It's the freedom to retire. It's the freedom to be treated equally. I want to say I am so thankful and proud, not only of what all of our ancestors and relatives did in the sit-down strike, but for what everyday UAW members did this past year. Thank you. What I see, or what I saw a few months ago, is UAW members again lighting a spark, because they know that the job doesn't end here in Flint, Michigan, or Detroit, Michigan, or down in Arlington, but they need to provide opportunity, freedom, democracy, and equality to workers across the nation. So thank you for all the sacrifices, UAW members, that you are making and have made this year. And it is appreciated, the fight that you are undertaking to help families across our nation. And with that, I'll leave you with one phrase: solidarity forever.
Now wait a minute, John. Is Jasper still here? Did he have to get out? Do I have any other of the state house reps or senators here today? If they are, can you please come up here? With that, Kristen and Jasper and John, I just want to take this moment to let everybody put a face with a name. Come on up here. Because a lot of the things that we are here today remembering and praising that those folks fought for us, these folks have fought for us just recently because you chose to elect them. Let me just name a few. For our great building trades brothers and sisters, restoring the prevailing wage. Absolutely life-changing for them. And I look around here and see a lot of you have been using the same shampoo I've been using. Repealing the retiree tax on retiree state income. Now, they just didn't do that for Democrats. They did it for every Michigan person that it affects, and I thank you for that. They restored collective bargaining rights that you and I take for granted in our work sites. They restored collective bargaining rights for our teachers that are, as we speak, training our future. And the list goes on, but I want to personally thank you. Repealing right to work. Starting in 4 days, them scabs have nowhere to hide, baby.
Thank you so much. I'm Senator Kristen McDonald-Rivet, and have the pleasure of serving with these wonderful people. I want to start by just saying the representation that Genesee County has in the state legislature is extraordinary, and they get up every single day and fight for what we all believe in. Want to just briefly say I'm the state senator from Saginaw and Bay City, so I'm your neighboring district, and I grew up in this household of a dad who got up and worked really hard every day. Now, he was not a UAW member, he was an operating engineer. But he taught me that hard work equals opportunity. I remember in the 70s when construction was hard and when the snow came, my dad didn't work. And I was always excited because we ate pancakes for dinner a lot. I didn't know we couldn't afford meat, right? I didn't know we couldn't afford meat, but it was the connection to the union that actually kept food on the table in my house. When we started today with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we do it every session day in the legislature, the piece that strikes me as the most important, my mom would always say to me, it's the under God part, and that matters. But the big piece is with liberty and justice for all, for all. And what's happened this year in the UAW standing its ground, I was out there walking the picket line with you, repealing right to work, restoring prevailing wage, is about ensuring that that for all doesn't mean CEOs of big companies. It doesn't mean the Elon Musks of the world, right? It means us, it means all of us, so that we can have what we call the Michigan dream. So, I'm a child of the 70s. To me, the Michigan dream is if you work hard, you can own a home. You can save for retirement, you can raise your kids, and you can also throw them in the back seat of the station wagon and drive to Disney World, because that's what we all like to do in Michigan, right? The reality is right now, 60% of our jobs are paying less than $50,000 a year. Our median income is dropping. People are having harder time than ever. Why? Because we spent 30 years eroding collective bargaining rights. We've been 30 years with policies to destroy our brothers and sisters in unions. And this is the moment when it stops. We stand up together. We go to the picket line when we need to. We go to the legislature when we need to. And I'm running for U.S. Congress so that we can go to D.C. when we need to and make sure that we are holding our rights together. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak, and solidarity forever.
Now, Jasper, this is a little tough introduction for you, for me, because it dawned on me here a while back that his grandfather used to teach me in high school. Here he is, Jasper.
Thank you. Happy White Shirt Day. I didn't have prepared remarks, but when you're talking to brothers and sisters, you don't need to have a specific script, because I'm going to speak to the heart. I first learned about the sit-down strike. Sheriff Backel was talking about stooges. I learned about the sit-down strike firstly from some different stooges, the Three Stooges. My father was showing me an old episode that was filmed in the late 30s. And Curly, Howard, and Curly, Larry, and Moe get mad at their girlfriends for something, and they say, what are they going to do? They're going to stage a sit-down strike. Now, this reference went over my 6 or 7-year-old self's head, but then my parents explained to me that this wasn't just the Three Stooges, making something up. It was based on something real life. It was based on something that happened here. It was based on something that my family took part in. And that broadened my perspective. That made me realize how proud I was of the community that I would come from, that something like a sit-down strike, something like speaking up and standing out was not just something that you saw on TV, it was something that we lived out in our day-to-day lives. When I had the opportunity to run for this position, knocking on doors 7 days a week and twice on Sunday, so many of the issues that I heard about are the ones that we've accomplished. Repealing the pension tax, repealing right to work, restoring prevailing wage, making sure that we're reinvesting in Michigan, reinvesting in Flint and Genesee County, and that was accomplished at the state level by making sure that our community had an advocate in the room and a seat at the table. Representative Cynthia Neely from Flint, Representative Amos O'Neill from Saginaw were tremendous advocates for our community in the House. Same goes with Senator John Cherry and Senator Kristen McDonald-Rivet in the Senate. It meant a lot on that day, about 11 months ago, when we voted to repeal right to work. As you can tell, being a little bit on the younger side, I was in school when right to work was originally passed. But so many folks who were here today, right now, were there protesting the taking away of collective bargaining rights, the taking away of our voice and our opportunity to advocate for ourselves a little over a decade ago. And then being able to sit on the House floor and vote to restore those rights, vote to make sure that communities like ours would truly have accurate and representative representation, to make sure that the great-grandson of a Flint sit-downer was able to not take away the rights of our union brothers and sisters, but to restore them. That made all those days of knocking on doors worth it. That made all of the hard work worth it. I'm really proud of how far we've come, but let's remember, it's not a question of how much we've done, it's how much more we have to do. So I want to say thank you for giving us support in Lansing. We may be working in Lansing, but we're working for the folks here in Genesee County. When we say solidarity now and solidarity forever, it's not just a word, it's not just something that you look up in the dictionary, it's an action, it's a mindset, it's a mentality. The folks up here today live that out. Everyone here in this room lives that out. Let's serve that as a reminder, something to live up to, and let's continue to take on big business, take on anyone that's taking away our rights, and let's really live out that concept, that idea, that belief of solidarity. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for the job well done. But you know that we watch you anyway, so. Next up is we've got a short video of some comments from our great congressman out of the 8th District, which is no stranger to any of us, Dan Kildee. So if we can roll the video.
Hi, it's Congressman Dan Kildee. To the men and women of the UAW, thank you for inviting me to speak with you. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person to celebrate such an important day. White Shirt Day is a reminder of the long, storied fight for fair wages and better working conditions. A reminder that blue-collar workers deserve the same rights and respect as white-collar workers. But this year, it means more. The Flint sit-down strike and the beginning of the modern labor union movement happened in my hometown of Flint. For 44 days, ending on February 11, 1937, auto workers banded together in the dead of winter, putting their jobs and their lives on the line to fight for fair pay and safe working conditions. Their fight helped to expand workers' rights all across the country. 86 years later, you wrote another chapter in that history, fighting not only for yourselves and your families, but for the entire American middle class. Last year's stand-up strike was about ensuring workers, the backbone of every major company in this country, receive a fair share of the value that they create. I was proud to stand with workers on the picket lines in Swartz Creek and Burton and want to again congratulate you on your historic new contracts. In Congress, I'll continue to fight to bring good-paying union jobs to mid-Michigan and ensure the future of auto manufacturing is here in America, not somewhere overseas. In celebration of White Shirt Day, I want to thank you for showing the world that the fight for fair wages and proper benefits is alive and well. Today and every day, I'm proud to be your representative in Congress.
Yeah, I apologize for the technical little difficulty there. No matter how much you're prepared, always somebody throws a little hitch in there. But, you know, I just want to tell a little quick story that I had heard from Dan's uncle, Dale, when he was a congressman. and it's actually a reflection of what we're here today about, was that his father, Dale Kilde's father, worked at Buick. And he was out playing in the yard, and he seen his dad and another two gentlemen coming out of walking back from the plant. They didn't live too far from the plant. And his dad kept yelling to Dale, "Get a chair, get a chair." And as he got closer, they were halfway carrying the guy in the middle of them. And Dale went in and got one of their tables, or their chairs from the table. And he said he remembers it very well because it was painted green. So I always call this the green chair story. And the fellow was having a stroke. And so they put the chair out in the front yard and they set him down. And the only thing that the guy was worried about was he told him, "Please don't tell the boss, he'll fire me." That's how bad things were back then. So always a reflection of kind of where we've come from then till now. Up here you'll see that the very first agreement is on this one-page poster board. 80, and this is 87 this year, so we do have a new 2000, so that was actually a 19 agreement. So, 84 years, 83 years, that's what the new agreement looks like. And it's even bigger and better now. So that's what collective bargaining can do from a one page to that page in a short 80-some years. So with that, leads me into an introduction of a guy that I've, in a very short time, got to know very, very well. We talk quite often. In our region, we have about 33% of General Motors across our region. So we have a lot of commonality with the GM department and the UAW. And I can tell you this guy's just a great person, and I love talking to him and talking about issues that we have not only in the region but across the country with that sector. But it's always nice to invite somebody here to witness this for the very first time and see the look on their face. Because like, wow, what are all these people doing here? So with that, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Vice President, the UAW over the GM department, Mike Booth.
Good afternoon, family. Mike Booth, International Vice President, Director of UAW General Motors Department. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. So I want to thank Steve Dawes. He called me up a couple weeks ago, said, "Hey, are you even interested in coming out for this?" I was running to my car then. So I couldn't, this is actually ultra cool to be here today. There's no other way to say it than that. I also want to thank all of our, Eric Price, our president of 651. Thank you for having me today. Your leadership, your executive committee. Also want to take the time now to thank all of the leadership of UAW locals. Can you guys raise your hands and show out who you are? If you're elected leadership, I'm seeing a lot of people holding their hands back, so. Thank you for what you do. You're in the trenches every day. I also want to take another step further. I want to thank the membership. In the 2023 strike, if it wasn't the support of the membership, that would have failed. Our membership was behind us very, very solidly, and we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. So February 11th, 1937, that's actually where the UAW, there were a lot of skirmishes before this with corporations, whether it was General Motors, whether it was Kelsey Hayes. There were a lot of skirmishes between management and the workers. So Kelsey Hayes had a sit-down strike about a week before the Flint strike. It did not have the impact like it did here. So here is the epicenter of the UAW. We were called UAWA back then, United Auto Workers of America. That was our original title. So this is where we had our jump start, and it was not only for auto workers, but it was for the middle class, and it also turned the United States into the powerhouse that we are. So I want everybody to take a second, look over at this wall here. Just notice this coming in here while we were sitting, and it says, "We built this country." That's an understatement. So you had the economic upheaval of the UAW, what we did to corporations, and that was the start of it back there, February 11th, 1937. That's the epicenter. So it's an absolute honor again to come out here to speak today. And to say that we're proud of our history, that's an understatement. So we all know the story of the Reuther brothers. You had Roy, Victor, and Walter. They were here. You also had Wyndham Mortimer and Bob Travis. They were the ones that helped start this, the actions, but they were only guiding it. And I'm going to name some names. I dipped into the archives a little bit. So there was Frank O'Rourke, Henry Clark, Bill and Frank Perkins. Remember those two guys? I'm going to come back to them here in a second. Everett Ketchum, Joe DeVitt, Roscoe Van Zant, Neil Yankin, Fred Ahern, Hans Larson. Hans Larson was actually shot in the running of the bulls. If you know that story, he was actually shot during that altercation. Bill and Frank Perkins, they were actually part of the original rebellion, if you want to call it. They were, if you want to call them shit stirrers, they were bowmen, and they were actually tired of the line speed, not knowing what they're going to be paid, the health and safety concerns, job security for tomorrow. They were concerned about that stuff, and they were actually one of the first two that sat down on a line and told the supervisor to go pound salt. So that's, from what I'm seeing, those two names were actually part of the originators of the sit-down strike in 1936. So then, let's see, Neil Yankin, he actually lost an eye, and it took him years and years to get compensation from General Motors, and it was finally because of the UAW. He was driving rails, they call them rails, into the car. He was driving it with a chisel. The chisel broke, took out his eye. It took years and years to get compensation from General Motors for that action. They were also supported, this whole group was supported by the Women's Emergency Brigade. Denora Johnson, Nellie Besson, and Elsie Larson. If you recognize those names. So what were they after back in 1936? They were after fair wages, job security, and health and safety. So health and safety, I'm going to say that we kind of got a good handle on it now. That if anybody disagrees with me, please let me know, and we'll absolutely address that. As technology changes in America, we have to make sure that we keep up with it, but we got a good handle on the health and safety. The fair wages and job security. So that is something, let's go back to just 2023 and the stand-up strike. Do you think we got everything that we need out of it? No. You ain't kidding about that. There's a lot of work to do. So now, they also had, back in 1937, they had people that were on our side. They had President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR. We had Secretary of Labor Francis Perkins and Michigan Governor Frank Murphy. So all those names, they were absolutely for the working class. That sounds familiar, the stand-up strike for 2023 and the economic gains of our contracts. That is what they won then, and that's where our beginning is now. So the members spoke up in 2023. The members spoke up and stood up. The members voiced their concerns with the economic insecurities and as well as job insecurities of our future. So we came here off of a basis of what was left to us. So how many retirees do we have here? If you could, retirees, stand up, please. We want to say thank you for that. You set the foundation for us, we are taking it over, and now we need to make sure that we pass this on to the younger generation. We're not going to be here forever. We have to educate and inform them so that they know what's happened in the past so they can see their future. So during the 2023 strike, the families, friends, and communities supported us in that strike. Same as what happened back in 1936, 1937. So the families, the friends, the communities came out to support them. We had the same support in 2023. So that's going to also take us to the conversation about the ballot box and the bread box. We all know that conversation back then, and it's still continuing to this day. So we had the support in 1937. So now we need a president who supports us. And I'm not up here to be a used car salesman. I'm not up here to be a commercial. I'm only here to say something that's common sense. Do we need a president who is inclusive, or do we need a president who is dividing us? That's up to you to decide. So now let's talk about down south, what's going on down there, the organizing. So they are our brothers and sisters. They just didn't know it yet. So we need to also include them in our conversations about our future. When they come in, they're going through the same things that we have gone through in the past. So they have same issues: health and safety, job security, fair wage. They have the same issues back down there as we've always had. So we want to actually congratulate them on coming into the UAW family, and we will support them. So there's an old adage: when you wear your colors, when you wear the wheel, you help other people out, and don't expect anything in return. That's a true statement. Let's help them out. Let's get them a better life just as much as we've given each other a better life. Again, it's been an absolute honor to be here, and thank you very much. Thank you, Steve.
All right, y'all be a little patient. We're almost done here. You know, I was sitting there and I just got a couple texts from some of my buddies, one of them being a good friend of mine, Larry Matthews, just texted me, said, I apologize for not being able to be there today, but it is so cool to watch live on live streaming. So it's working back there, our PR department is working. You know, I'm getting ready to play a little short video, and you know, I got videos on top of videos, and a lot of them around the sit-down strike. And recently, Ron Acero from 659 sent him on a mission to go get a whole bunch of stuff converted into digital, so I've really got a chance to listen to a lot of interviews with the original sit-downers in the Women's Brigade. Actually listened to about 20 minutes with Janora Dollinger, and it's absolutely mind-blowing what them women did back in that time. So right now, before I get into this video, I do want to take a little bit, so I don't forget, I want to thank you again, Eric, thank all the speakers for coming up here, and I want to thank the retirees. I want to thank our Women's Council and our women's committees out of all the local unions. As you see them, they're all wearing their berets, and they just do a fantastic job, which is going to lead me into a little story here. But before that, I want to play this video, and this video was a interview with some people up to Black Lake, and these people were original sit-downers and Women's Brigade, and it's only about 6 minutes long, but I want to just touch on some highlights so you'll catch them. Mildred talks about what she thought the best was, that the very next time after the union that they got laid off, they got a check for the week, $16, and it was life-changing for them. Leo didn't have to argue with the boss anymore. He got paid when the line broke down because the boss knew better than to argue with him because they had committee people. Joe said he had money to spend on the side. We could even take in a show now and then. I even got to buy a new car, saved up $200 to buy it after the union was in there. He was paying $13 a month rent for his house and ended up buying it for $695. Now, some of them say that, and I can't remember if it was Joe or one of the other ones said that when he bought his house, his mother-in-law said, "You're never going to be able to pay for that." Well, he said, "I showed them. I had a union." He was married in 1941, bought the house. That's when his mother-in-law said, "You're never going to be able to pay for it." In their closing remarks, this was just really great. A message to their younger workers. Joe said, "If I was able to work again, I would never work at a plant that they didn't have no union." So with that, let's roll that video.
Okay. Ready? John, you were talking about how when you went back to work and the night shift had gone out and you hadn't been informed. You want to tell us what happened? You went to work and...
Well, they just told you that nobody was gonna, go in that day, and I don't think too many would try to get in anyway. And but the way we figured, if anybody was foolish enough to walk in there and start to work, we was gonna let them do it, because rather than getting a fight over nothing.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't work anyway.
Okay. Let me kind of sum up by letting you sum up, and that is, and starting with you, Mildred, since you were at home kind of keeping track of the finances and the conditions and all, after the strike was settled, life get a little better?
Well, yes,
How?
because the next time he was laid off, we got a check for about $16.
Okay.
That was a lot.
Did you find out that you had a little more money to spend as well?
Yeah,
Could you take a vacation?
yes, we always took some vacation. We budgeted our money so that we knew just where everything went.
Okay, Leo, in your case, what was it like on the job after the union was recognized?
Things were a lot better, and you didn't have to argue with the foreman. He knew better than to keep his mouth shut.
Okay.
So it was a lot better, and we got the raises each year that we was fighting for, and by 38, things was going pretty good as far as I was concerned.
You didn't lose as much time. In other words, you got paid for whatever. If something
right.
broke down,
Yep.
was paid for.
Yep.
Okay. And it still took a while, though, didn't it? Before, I mean, it didn't happen overnight, did it?
It sure didn't. It took quite a lot, and as the years went on, things got better. And that's what we fought for, to cut this piecework and taking things away from us all the time. Wasn't what we fought for.
Joe, what about you? When the union was recognized, the piecework went out the window. What was life like on the job, and what was it like at home?
It was a lot better living. We had a little money to spend on the side. We could probably take in a show once in a while, which we didn't have before.
Okay.
And I did get to buy a new car. I worked for 7 years at Fisher Body before I could save up $200 to buy a car before the union was in there.
Yeah.
So it did make a lot of difference.
Yeah. Did you eventually buy your own house then, or?
Yes, I bought my own house. I can tell you about that, about how tough things were then. I was paying $13 a month rent for the house that I was living in. And the people that had built those houses were renting them out at $13 a month because people couldn't pay anymore. So they finally had to sell the houses. So I bought one of those houses for $695.
Was that one of the houses in Civic Park?
No, that was over on the south end, just off Bristol Road.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm still living there. Of course, I haven't put in quite a lot of improvement, but
Sure.
I'm still living in that house.
Okay, so this meant that you could buy a house and get a little money to spend for some recreation, and I suppose not only that, a new car. And,
Yeah, we finally bought a new car, yeah.
Okay, John, what about you? What did that mean?
Well, it meant that I had a chance to accumulate a little bit and not go in the hole instead of, you know, and it was 41 when I got married, and that I didn't have to drive back and forth to Flint, you know, and so that made a difference. And in fact, when we bought the house, my mother-in-law said that we'd never be able to pay for it, that you could buy a home cheaper in Saginaw, you know, but you couldn't. And but we survived.
So you were able to buy a house and make ends meet,
Yeah, well,
and buy a little clothing now and then.
well, just what you needed is all, but it worked out pretty good.
Well, any last thoughts before we close? Anything you want to pass on to younger workers?
If some of the younger workers will listen to some of these things and take heed to them, they're going to be good that they do. If they don't, things not going to be good for them.
Actually, you can't imagine anybody knowing what was going on, and if you told them, they wouldn't believe it.
That's right.
Because it sounds so unreal, you know.
Joe?
Well, I, for one, I'm sure, if I was able to go to work again, that I'd never work at a plant where they didn't have no union.
So it was a struggle that was well worthwhile.
It sure was.
Okay, well, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay?
Well, for those of you who couldn't hear that, which I think is everybody, you can go back and look at it on the Facebook page or the Twitter or the YouTube, and I can see that's going to be my number one task here, is that we're going to fix some video issues we got. Not making that an excuse or not, but you know, you're only as good as what the projector will do. So with that, you know, it's amazing when you could listen to some of that talking about, you know, hey, they finally got wage increases and they finally were able to buy a car or buy a house. That the things that we take for granted today, but you know, they never realized, but until afterwards, then they appreciated the fruits of their labor and the strike and what it did. So I want to take you back in time. I want to take you back to 1937, right around February 1st. It's amazing that at the end of the strike, on February 11th of 1937, it was about the identical weather we have here today. So what a great celebration on 87 years to have the same weather. So I want to take you back in time. So during the sit-down strike, there was a force to be reckoned with that the company, the police, the company thugs never saw coming, and that was the Women's Brigade, the Women's Emergency Brigade. Were formed by a young Genora Dollinger. They wore red armbands and red berets. That was their way to identify those women that were able and available for action. Shortly after forming the Women's Brigade, they were known for their bravery, their strength, and their fearlessness. Interesting that Genora told the story that one of her family relatives was a very high up executive at General Motors. and through her father-in-law, got passed down to her that they attempted to buy her off. They offered her a huge salary if she would, quote, if she would only come to her senses. They attempted to evict her and her husband, Kermit, from their house at $13 a month. She was living with active tuberculosis. And you know, back then, they didn't have health care, so there was all county government health care. The county tried to cut off her medical treatments because they feared that woman so much. But a friendly doctor in the neighborhood that believed in her cause continued with her health care. So it was February 1st, and the strikers had already occupied Fisher 1 and Fisher 2 for quite some time, since December 30th. But GM was still able to run. GM will still be able to build vehicles, and they weren't feeling the pressure. And the organizers and the strikers were really starting to get worried at that time. Did they do the right thing? Are they ever going to have a future? What's going to happen to them? But they knew if they could take over Plant 4, which was known as Chevy in the Hole, the nickname The Hole came from, actually that time, they called it the Hell Hole because it was so hot and the working conditions were so bad. And as the years went by, you know, they shortened the name up to Hole. That was their engine plant. It employed 6,000 members. If they could shut Plant 4 down, they could shut the entire corporation down. But the problem was General Motors knew that. So they had the place very well armed guard with thugs. They owned the Flint police. They had the Flint police there, all their stoolies working inside. So a plan was devised, a very secret plan, to have a decoy strike at Plant 9, which was a quarter mile down the road. So in between Plant 7 and Plant 9 was the administration building. So the workers knew who their stool pigeons were that they worked with, and they leaked it out that their next move was to take over Plant 9. General Motors called in reinforcements, and they had a meeting in the basement of the administration building, and they were ready for this strike. At a shift change on February 1st, 1937, they started shutting down Plant 9. They would walk around and start pulling levers and shutting lights off, shutting machines off. They sent protesters and people that didn't know it was a decoy strike went there to strike and to take action. GM sent extra security. They sent police to the plant, and it quickly became an outright battle. While the police were firing tear gas into Plant 9, the men were suffering from the gas in the side. If you remember that first video I showed, where the women went up and beat the windows out, that was Plant 9. Okay? They did that to get the fresh air. At the end of that battle, which was a relatively short battle, we lost that battle. We were thrown out of Plant 9, and General Motors occupied that. We could not occupy that plant, but it was all by design. A lot of people there were still fighting like they didn't know it was a decoy strike. So Genora and 4 of her lieutenants decided to go down and see what was happening at Plant 4, because simultaneously they waited 6 minutes. When they started up at the shift change in Plant 9, they started taking over Plant 4. And it became a battle, a bloody battle. One story was that there was 15 of the strikers going up the stairs, and at the top of the stairs come down 50 managers. They all had connecting rods and camshafts. They threw them out of the building, threw the strikers out of the building. When the foremans went back in, half of them climbed the gate and went back in to fight again. So Genora said, "We need help down here." So she sent back up to Plant 9 for reinforcements. They were still keeping the police and the thugs at bay up there by keeping them occupied because they didn't want them to come down to Plant 4. So when Janora and her 4 lieutenants saw that the police were trying to ram the gate after they had it closed, they all locked arms in front of that gate, and the police still tried to push through that gate. But when they sent for help, she said she remembers how she felt when she saw the massive women's brigade coming down Chevrolet Avenue. She said them red berets were just popping up and down, carrying the American flag and clubs. And they formed a line around the gates that the police would not mess with. And if you remember the song in the video, when it showed, if you remember them lying to them women, I can just picture them there. And one of the verses in the video says, "I wish I could have stood with them to see their wives come down, to stand a line between their men on this battleground." Now that's pretty cool. Later, naturally, the National Guard came in and kept peace with the strikers. And at times, again, I'll say that they wondered, were they going to be able to be successful in this endeavor? But they defeated the largest corporation in America, and they showed their strength, solidarity that could never be broken. So on February 11th, with the pressure from President Roosevelt, Governor Murphy, and our great negotiators for the General Motors, the UAW against General Motors, we won the right to represent them workers. Huge sign hung across that building, said victory is ours. And I will say that banner said it all. Victory is ours, much as I think you felt just recently, Mike. That celebration lasted throughout the night in Flint, Michigan. Many claim that the winning of that strike, and I quote, was the most important event in American labor history. The little union, that little UAW, that fought for recognition in less than a generation would grow to be the most powerful labor union in the world. Now, how does that make you feel to be a part of that, this great union? How does that make you feel? That's why we're here today. I want to thank everybody that's watching live and all those that will go back and watch this. You know, I will leave you with a couple things before we sing Solidarity. Is that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. So I hope today that we made you feel better about the union, proud of your union, proud of this state, proud of this country. So let's please rise for Solidarity Forever, because when we hold our brothers and sisters' hand, the worker will never lose.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no greater power anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, but without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union
Thank you all again, and let's eat.